reacting to Marc Andreessen's interview at the Hoover Institute, he spoke about three things. One, he spoke about DOGE and the way to rein in government spending. He spoke about techno-optimism, and he spoke about China. I want to talk about all of the three, but really focus on China, because I think the way I see our relationship with China is actually exactly the opposite of what most people fear, which is everybody's saying we have a big opponent in China today, and that opponent is very different than the one we had with Russia because the Chinese have a strong economy. And I think that's actually exactly why this conflict, in my opinion, is not going to be as dramatic as people fear, is because the Chinese have a strong economy, and that strong economy can only get stronger and flourish if they keep a relationship with us. In other words, if we have Tesla selling cars in China, or suppliers selling components into the drone or electric car supply chain, then they need to keep selling those things, and they cannot do that if they are at some sort of war with the Western world. So in other words, I think the strength of China is the containment, the economic strength. Now, of course, there's always a risk, and I don't want to downplay the risk, and I'm also very much for deterrence. The stronger we are in terms of able to defend us. Okay, I don't mean in terms of number of ships or airplanes or any of that, because I think we've been wasting way too much money on defense that is not very effective. I'm talking about the kind of defense that is effective. So if you think in football terms, the stuff that gets you yards or prevents the opponents from getting yards, not the stuff that that you can put in nice headlines. So that's really the main insight that I would like to share here. I think if China decides to provoke the Western world with a conflict, then we'll just do without China. Tesla can not sell 1 million cars there, close their factory, and go and sell cars elsewhere. Yeah, the stock will be down 50, 60, 70%. It's been down before for other reasons. So what I'm saying is, look, we're not going to be victims of some sort of, or hostages of a power that, in my opinion, doesn't really have much more power than any other power, which is they can do things and sell it to us, and we do things and sell it to them. And that's what trade is. And if we want to think in terms of mercantilistic thinking, then that would be bad. That would put us back to the Cold War times. But we are actually in a sort of anti-mercantilistic world where we have a very tight relationship with the strongest power, and we should embrace that as an asset and use it to make sure that they behave. This is not even on podcast. It's January 15, 2025. This is Krim Delco. For the year, the fund is down 2%. The market's down 1%. We're underperforming by 1%. I think Marc Andreessen's interview at the Hoover Institute was interesting. I think it's called Uncommon Knowledge. I don't know if that's a series. An interesting interview because he talks about three things that are really important also for us here at Orange Capital Partners. And for new listeners, we talk a lot about books. We talk a lot about our work. We try to convey to the listeners what it feels like to run a hedge fund. This is not investment advice, so please do your own work. And the reason we talk about things like, for example, this interview is because it's an important milestone, I think, in the intellectual development of the zeitgeist, which is in the United States shifting towards efficient government, strong technological lead, and an arm's length relationship with China. Those are the three things I think if we can get them right, we will have prosperity for the next 10 years. So let's start with China. I think there's this canonical question that people like to ask, which is, we're in a sort of Cold War type situation. So instead of Russia, we have China. They are strong, they're getting stronger. And the difference is they have a strong economy, so it's going to be tough to defeat them. Well, number one, we don't have to defeat them. All we have to do is keep trading with them. Now, when I say keep trading with them, I'm absolutely of the opinion, like many people in the Trump camp, that has to happen in a sort of fair way. I mean, we can't let them steal all our technology and then pretend that we trade. Of course, we have to make sure that the rules of engagement are given such that there is trade. And I think trade per se is not bad. It's just the actors, if they misbehave, they need to be put in place. And I think the Chinese have all the incentive in the world to also be a strong trading partner because they have a strong economy. So this supposed fear that we have, this problem actually can be flipped on its head to a strength, which is because they're strong, because they know how to make electric cars, because they know how to make drones, they can sell them to us. They can sell components to us. And by the way, if they don't want to, then we'll just do it. We have the best people, the best engineers, the best universities. And when I say we, I mean the Western world, not just the United States. There's plenty of other places in the world, some of it in Europe, some of it in Asia, that are abiding to the Western value system of rule of law, of humanities, or human-centric decision-making, and of freedom of voluntary action. That's very important. So I think the second thing that they're talking about is technology optimism or techno-optimism. I think that's, in my opinion, the most important message of the interview. If you are afraid of left or right-wing dictatorships or populism or whatever you want to call it, your answer has to be economic growth. Economic growth is there's only one type of economic growth. And that's a misconception that, unfortunately, the economics profession has spread throughout the decades because it's become so political. There's only one type of economic growth, and that is real growth through innovation. And innovation means the purpose of our fund is to invest in fundamentally new concepts and engineering practices with large impact. That's exactly what economic growth is. New engineering practices, new concepts that have large impact. That's how you make things better and cheaper. And when you can make something 10 times cheaper or 100 times cheaper and 100 times better, then people can use that thing, and then they have spare resources to do other things. And that's what economic growth means. There's some caveats with that. We have inequality. We have some people lose out, other people win, of course, but that's what progress brings with it. A static society, a society that doesn't change, is a society like the medieval society with feudalism and things like that. I don't think anybody wants to go to that. I think the third thing that he talks about is the DOGE and the efficiency of the government. We've spoken about this in other episodes, so I don't want to talk too much about this. But what I want to say is that I've recently listened to the Econ Talk podcast, also links are in the show notes, and I was very disappointed sort of how the economics profession looks at DOGE. And I think there's some professional envy, there is some arrogance or whatever. Like, of course it's difficult. If it had been easy, it would have been done. Of course there's going to be backlash. But that's like in your family, if you tell your kids not to spend money or not to have candy, there's going to be backlash. So you just tell them, don't have candy. If Senator X doesn't want to cut something, then make sure he's not going to be reelected. Like, we can actually do this. And there's legal ways, there's political ways, and there's economic ways. Again, there's probably many more episodes coming up in terms of how DOGE can be implemented. But the fundamental importance of DOGE is, first, that we talk about it. Second, that we need to rein in on the deficit spending, which is just ludicrous. And we need to undo what COVID, the COVIDians, and the Biden mafia has done to our country, which is waste trillions of dollars on crony socialism and things like that, DEI and social stuff and ESG and all of that. Not just we need to get rid of these acronyms, but we need to get rid of the money-spending agencies and bureaucrats who are implementing all these acronyms. So to summarize, I think I'm really happy with Marc Andreessen. Some people have a problem with him that he's now coming out of the woodwork and he's sort of jumping on the Trump, Elon Musk bandwagon. I don't care what it is. He's an important person. He has good opinions. I think he has good intentions, and I think he can make a change. And I think his ideas of technological optimism and growth, his understanding of economics, which for a computer science person is actually very refreshing, his understanding of government and waste is laudable. I think the way he looks at China, in my opinion, is not the right way. I think we need to embrace China as a trading partner, an economic powerhouse, and that's exactly going to be also that's going to be the solution to the China problem. But of course, when I say that, I don't mean like Germany embraced Russia by buying natural gas. The way we deal with China is going to be always and always in an arm's length way. That means that, look, you're going to do this for me, I'm going to do this for you, but you better don't take advantage of X and Y. If you do, I cut you off. We can rebuild factories, we can rebuild supply chains, we can do anything we want if we have to. It's up to the Chinese to play along the global Western rule game in this particular global economy, because it is a global economy that was built by Western values, and therefore it also has to be proliferated through Western values. It can't be hijacked by other values. Thank you.